Hello, and welcome to 3 Minutes After Midnight. I'm your host, Dr. Clark Schmidt. This morning, I'm going to take you on a tour of four um, points of interest for hauntings in the city of Milwaukee. But before I do that, I'd like to just for a moment tell you something that happened to me just the other day. Being a veteran, I do belong to a few veteran organizations, and once in a while, when I don't go to the local gin joint, walking distance, that I sometimes go and have a few drinks at one of the, as I call them, clubs. And it just so happens that I went to one of the nearest clubs that I belong, and sitting at the bar, minding my own business, when a young lady taps me on the shoulder and asks if she could sit down. And now you had to been in the armed forces or be a vet to join a club, and unless you come in with your boyfriend or husband. So I know that she was a vet. But anyways, um, she says, I recognize you. And I says, really? She says, yeah. And I says, well, how? Well, I was going through YouTube and happened to see you in one of your videos called Opening the Door to the Unknown. And I said, really? I said, well, how did you, I said, well, how did you like the video? And she said, yeah, you did a good job, very informative. I learned a few things. And then you have a PSA that you say is that you have another YouTube channel called 3 Minutes After Midnight. And I said, well, yeah. Um, anyhow, is that I said, well, I said, did you see all, at this time there was only three videos. And she said, yeah. She said, I watched all three of them that kept my interest. But I have to tell you is that the pictures that you have shown and talked about have already been talked about many times, either on YouTube or on ghost programs. And I said, yeah, that might be true, but I have an advantage over the YouTube, the people who have talked about what I'm talking about for hauntings. And she said, well, what's that advantage? I already did them about 40 years ago, and and a lot of pictures I took. So uh, she was kind of thrown back. She was kind of thrown back with that. But anyways, I went to last night. I went to the local gin joint, walking distance, and I'll tell you about that encounter with a young lady. Anyways, this is Marquette University in the city of Milwaukee. Um, It is a Catholic. It is a Catholic university owned by the Archdiocese uh, in the city itself, and it was founded in the late 1700s by a Jesuit priest named Marquette. Anyways, my dad um, went to medical school here, and in the 40s, and he graduated in 1946. In fact, they called him of the old man in medical school. Anyways, when he wasn't at home, is that he stayed on campus because he belonged to the Phi Chi's. And every once in a while, he would stay in the dorm and party down hardy uh, with his compadres. Anyways, he used to tell me that there was 3 or 4 places haunted on campus itself. And I'm going to be talking about those hauntings, and then we're going to move on to my alma mater, which is UWM, and in the strange case over there. Anyways, um, like I said, this is a big campus. In fact, I think it's the largest campus in the city of Milwaukee. I think it's a lot bigger than UWM. Of course, they don't have the medical school anymore. That was turned. That was uh, how should I say? It was called the Medical College of Wisconsin. So anyways, I was proud of Dad to graduate from the school, because Marquette Medical School at that time, and before they changed it to the Medical College of Wisconsin back in I think it was in the early 60s, is one of the major medical schools in the United States, besides Harvard, Yale, Columbia. Um, Don't know if Berkeley has a medical school or not, but anyways, you learned you actually learned at Marquette. Of course, they got the School of Education. They also had for law, theater arts, you name it. Just like UWM, for an example, have the same study curricula. Anyways, like I said, I'll be talking about UWM shortly. So let's take a walk over to where you see the picture. Okay, this is Stotts Hall. It was, I don't know if my dad used to, if he told me it was an administration building or what. I just can't remember. Um, but anyways, I do know that it is haunted, according to him, and also to some of the students that I had a chance to talk to back in the 70s when I was going again to UWM. Just like the Eagles, Stotts has a swimming pool, pretty good size one. And it was told even by through my dad is that in 1941 or 42 is that a young man drowned within in the pool, and he said is that some of his friends that used to go swimming to do their pool laps, all he said is that something always were sound like it was swimming alongside them as they were actually doing their laps. Talking to students again is that it was confirmed by what my dad said to what the students had to say. Now, there was really, as far as I know, I really don't know if there was a major investigation to try to get the name of the student. I didn't have a chance to really do that much research with this particular haunting in this particular building. But I can confirm that yes, it is haunted. Okay, the next one, if I can find here. Nope, 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 nope. Oh, no, wait a minute. Nope, nope. I think I lost it. Nope, nope. I just had it. Okay. That's good. Here we go. I'll be talking, the pictures that you're seeing, I'll be talking about. Okay, later on, I just had it. Nope, no. How come I keep losing it? Nope, 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 nope. Okay. I'll find it. I just had it. One more time. Like I said, you get to see the preview of the pictures that I will be bringing up in other videos. Uh, nope, 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 nope. Oh, come on. I had it. Nope, nope. Well, son of a gun. All right, I don't, believe it or not, I don't have it. I was going to go to Johnson Hall, but I don't have the picture. Thought I did. Sometimes I bring the pictures up, and all of a sudden, for some strange reason, it's just like you lose something um, out into cyberspace. I do not know why. But anyways, Johnson Hall uh, was another haunted building on the campus. And Johnson Hall used to be back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s a children's hospital. Now, if you want to do some good haunting, if you want to do some good investigation of hauntings, you can always go to our hospital. That is where you're going to find a lot of spirits hanging around, especially children. So, anyways, my dad used to say when the professors used to march the students to Johnson, is that they would learn about childhood diseases. Okay. Um, anyways, is that there was always the stories going. There was always the stories going around. Is that Johnson was haunted by children who died, and especially from the night staff. And they would say is that they could hear like kids screaming, playing, laughing. They also said something like jumping rope, doors opening and closing, lights turning on and off. The whole gamut of a typical haunting. Talking to the students again, got the confirmation um, with that as well. Moving on, we're going to go, and I can't remember the theater is. If I can find it here, it's kind of hard to pronounce. Uh, I'm looking for it. Like I said, the theater is kind of hard to pronounce. Um, anywho, um, not really much history behind the theater. It's like like every university has a theater arts department. UWM had a theater arts department. Marquette has a theater arts department. Um, and so they would produce, they would perform plays on the weekends or during certain nights of the week. And so, anyways, it's been said is that the theater that I can't remember the name is haunted by a artistic director. Okay, now when they mean by artistic director, if anybody ever took up theater arts, is that they mean for the stage. The artistic director was the designer for the stage. Um, could have been like for an apartment or like a gazebo or something like that. So that's what they meant by artistic artistic director. So anyways, those are the three hauntings at at Marquette. I think they're interesting because, like I said, if my dad could bring it up about hauntings, and he was never one um, to really believe in spirits, ghosts. So that's why I think it's unusual when he told me about the three when he was in medical school. Okay, moving on. We are going to take a walk down Wisconsin to Downer, and we're going to grab the bus, and we're going to take a little trip to the university. If I can find it. Um, nope, 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 nope. Here. To Houghton Hall on the campus of UWM. I find this quite interesting as a haunting. Is that before UWM became I think the word is not became into the University of Wisconsin system, is that it was called Downer's Teachers College back in the late 1800s until about 1959, when when Downers was turned into University of Wisconsin Milwaukee. It wasn't really at that time a big campus. It was a small campus, and the students who graduated were teachers. That's the reason why they called it Downers Teachers College, and the only people and the only graduates were females. Anyways, this was the dorm. All right, this was the dorm, and the story goes something like this: is that in 1892, is that there were rules that the student had to follow. It's not like today where the students create any rules that they want to create. And I'm not going to get into politics right now. I might create a whole channel on that. But anyways, is that they had to follow rules, and one of the rules was that if they wanted to bring in their boyfriends, is that they would have to be chaperoned. Believe it or not, even if the student wanted to show the boyfriend around the small campus, they could never take the person inside the dorm. That was a complete no-no. But naturally, rules are made to be broken, and a young student took her boyfriend up on the third floor where she resided in one of the dorm rooms, and they found her body the next morning. Now, it was maintained by the investigators is that she committed suicide. That was the only explanation they could give, because again, she couldn't have brought her boyfriend or any friends onto the campus without again being chaperoned. So naturally, they said suicide. So after 90 some years, is that the third floor was off limits. There was persona non grata, you might say, until one night back in 1970. What was it? 70. Yeah. 76. Is that a paranormal organization called Wisconsin Society of Physical Research got the president, if you will, got permission by the school administration if they could finally open up um, the third floor and have that room unlocked after 90 some years for them to do an investigation. Well, it was good business, you might say, for the administration to say, yeah, go ahead. But you only have like a half an hour to 45 minutes to do what you got to do, and then we're closing up. Now, why it was good for business? Back in the 70s, as people loved ghost stories, just like they did in the 90s and like they do today. So, anyways, I got wind of it by a friend of mine, and they were going to do this investigation on this Friday night at 7 o'clock. And so I got myself cleaned up a little bit, and zip, I ran across campus, and I got up and ran up the stairs, and here was people. Here were kids already milling around outside. Um, there wasn't a lot of them. I would say maybe 15 at the most, and I think that they were just for curiosity, for a third floor of dorm to open up after 90 some years, and to open up a dorm room to find out what the hell was inside. Just like but I was there for another particular purpose, and that was to investigate. Anyways, is that the security came up with this young lady who I had a chance to talk to in front of us, that she was definitely the founder of the WSPR, and I asked her if it would be all right if once they opened up the door, if I could go inside as well, since I told her that I was the founder of the Psychic Phenomena Research Organization, which she said that, which surprised me, what she said is that she heard. So yeah, so security said, well, if you're gonna let them in, yeah, go ahead. Only you two can go inside. So we unlocked the door. She and I walked inside, and the room was not big. I mean, it really surprised me. Here there was a table, and here was a desk or a table chair, um, 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 a spring bed, you might say, um, or uh, not a bed with a mattress, small closet, and that was about it. Looking in the closet is that there was nothing really on the floor besides some old papers that go back. I mean, if they want to go for historical purposes, scribblings going back to um, the late 1990s, and bobby pins. Okay, so that was about it. So she had a camera. She's taking pictures, hoping to capture something. And I asked her if she did, if she could send me some copies, and I gave her my dorm, my room number in the dorm over at Sandberg Hall. Um, to be sent to me. Anyhow, is that I decided is that I told her what I was going to do. I was going to go into a light mediumistic trance, see if I could have contacted this young woman, and try to find out just actually what happened. So I sat myself down, went into a light trance, calling out, just like calling her name through telepathy, and hoping that I would get a response through my psychic psychic ability of being a clairaudient, just like John Edwards and Van Prague, for an example. I did. What surprised me is that this young lady told me her name, which was Penelope, and I asked her if she committed suicide or if she was pushed out the window, and she told me suicide, and all of a sudden, boom! I didn't get any more information because I heard a voice in the back room say time. I mean, in a loud voice, time was up, and boom! There was nothing more I could do. You had people, like writing stuff down. So I figured there had to have been a school reporter for the university newspaper found out that I was correct on that. Anyways, I was written up. Said, is that psychic medium contacts a young student named Penelope. She was murdered back in 1892. I mean, so I thought that was interesting. But how it happened, of how this happened, though, why they opened up the third floor and opened up that room, especially that night, is that there was talk going around campus is that people, when they would walk past Houghton, is they would see a light on the third floor, especially in that particular room. And they said is that the light didn't shine for very long, and that that was the end of that. So I think that was one of the reasons why they finally decided to open up uh, the room for WSPR to come in as to investigate. Of course, SPR had to take information that I accumulated, so it kind of was like a joint team effort um, with that. So that's why I thought it was kind of so that's what I thought was kind of interesting. Now, I mentioned that I resided in Sandberg Hall, which was the dorm. And Sandberg, as I understand it, and I didn't know if it was true or not because I really didn't do any investigation. If it was, I always heard that for some reason Sandberg Hall was haunted, and the haunting was caused by Caro Sandburg himself because they named the dorm after him. Again, I don't know if that was exactly true or not, but like I said, I never did get a conclusion on that. But like I said, there was always the rumors going around. So that takes care of um, University of Wisconsin Milwaukee, and I'll show you here real quick. Where are we here? Like I said, you get to see previews of pictures here that are very interesting. Uh, okay, this building here. I'm gonna zoom. I don't know. See if I can cut back just a little there. Okay, this is the Brunder mansion that's right outside Milwaukee. And the Brunder mansion is kind of interesting as for hauntings. Is that Mr. Brunder was the, how should I say, lumber baron in the city of Milwaukee. He had 2 lumber mills. And what's so interesting about the haunting of the mansion is that the family resides, and so does servants and caretakers. So it's like one big happy family. Now, is this true? Yes, it is true. I had a chance to visit the Brunder, and I talked to staff members because it is again, it's one of the buildings that was opened up as a historical marker in the state of Wisconsin. And so I had a chance to talk to some of the staff members, and they told me is that they actually hear a lot of strange noises going on at night. Some people said that they have walked out onto the grounds, and they say like they could hear like raking motion, sounds, like somebody raking leaves. Um, and also like whistling as well, as servants would do as to keep themselves occupied as they're working. So I would have to say is that the Brunder Mansion is haunted. Okay, we're going to go back down to Wisconsin Avenue, and we are going to go to. Let me see if I can find. This is the one. Okay. Pabst Mansion. Pabst Mansion. Kind of a unique story uh, with this mansion is that the owner, the builder, you might say, was Captain John Frederick Pabst, and he was the reason why they called him Captain was because he was a seafarer, and he brought his family to Milwaukee as all Germans did back in the early uh, early 1800s, as to settle in the city. And he built he built this mansion in 1888. And Pabst, when he came to Milwaukee with his family, he bought a lot of land out in the town of Summit, just right outside of Nashotah, and the land was turned into what was called Pabst Farms. Became a very lucrative business, but Pabst wasn't really satisfied. There was a lot of breweries. I mean, there was a few major breweries in Milwaukee, which was like Miller, it had Schlitz, it had Blatz, and a few others. And he became partners with one of the brewers, but he wanted to expand out. So he decided is that he was going to have his own brewery, and so he bought some land down on Water Street, and created Pabst Brewery, small brewery, and he found a master brewer, and he went to work. Well, anyways, Pabst became so prolific is that he won a blue ribbon back in 18, what was it, in 1890, 1892, something like that. Whatever. Um, anyways, Pabst, like I said, the mansion was built. He also had another mansion out in Lower Oconomowoc and that my dad, when he was about 16, 17, when his family brought the kids out to Okachi, is that he would go and park cars for people that came out the party, you might say, with the more prominent people of Milwaukee. Now, of course, my great grandfather, my dad's grandfather, um, at the same time in 1888, created Diamond Ink Company, and his name was Augustus Ritz. And Diamond Ink had a contract with Pabst with their paste for Pabst to buy, for the brewery to buy the paste to plaster their labels onto the beer bottles. So that was kind of lucrative business deal that my great grandfather had with Captain Pabst. Naturally, I always heard through the family is that they became pretty good friends. Um, anyways, um, Pabst died in 1901, so he didn't. So he built the mansion in 1888, lived in it for 3 years, and kicked the bucket. So he left everything to his wife and children naturally, but the wife died in 1903, and so now the kids were in charge of not owning the two mansions, the farm, and also the brewery. But it got a little bit too much. So in about 1978 is that Pabst put the mansion up on the market to be sold, and there was a buyer who was um, um, ah, a builder, you might say, and he was going to demolish the mansion and to bulldoze everything out and to create a major parking lot, which means this would be gone, and the beautiful property would be gone as well, just for a lousy parking lot in the city of Milwaukee, which they need like they need a hole in their head. Anyways, another private concern was interested in buying out as to keep the mansion as a historical marker, and under the Historical Society uh, is it called the registrar or something like that. Anyways, they bought out this guy, and they started to get donations as to refurbish the mansion itself, and work begun. And one of the workers, who was a mason, went up onto the third floor in one of these bedrooms, which was the daughter's room, and started to have some strange contact, you might say, like somebody touching, somebody like poking him in the back, um, pulling his shirt, and other strange things. And he told his co-workers about it, and they thought that he was a little, because who believed in ghosts, right? So, anyways, he went back to work, and that that day after work, he was again talking to his co-workers, and he said is that he knew um, um, who was bothering him in that sense. And they asked who, and he says Captain Frederick Pabst. And they said, well, how do you know? And he said is that he saw an apparition of the captain, especially with his facial features, that he remembered seeing pictures of him down in the lobby. So, is Pabst haunted? Yes, it is. It has been established throughout the years that the mansion that it is Frederick Pabst who does the haunting, and I wouldn't blame him. I mean, here he built this beautiful mansion. He worked his keister off, and yet he never had a really time to enjoy what he sweated for, because he died um, early. What's early back? I think he was in his early 60s or something like that when he passed. Um, just a little side note: the second floor, if I remember rightly, back in when I visited, was the Jesuits from the Archdiocese have rented out the rooms on the second floor, and it's open. And again, is that the mansion is opened for tourists. And I like the structure itself. It's a little bit different than other type of mansions that you see when they talk about ghost about hauntings, especially with mansions around the United States. But I actually like this one. Okay, real quick here is that. A book has been written. I think somebody also created a YouTube video. It's called The Beast of Bray Road. I have no idea where this road is located. All I can say is that I do believe by people that I have heard from, okay, um, is that the beast is classified as a not a changeling, as a shapeshifter. And the reason why I say this is because you have some major Indians in the state of Wisconsin, and one is the Menominee, and they're a big tribe. And naturally, if you have Indians, you're going to have the legend of shapeshifters. Um, some people say is that the beast is a werewolf. So again, is it true? I don't know. Like I said, I never had a chance to investigate it personally because I was by that time uh, I was out in Milwaukee after I graduated from UWM, and so I never went back, and I haven't been back in 20 almost going on 24 years as of next year. So I mean, it's been that long since I've been to Milwaukee. It's just what people when people write me, like either through my uncle or my cousins or whatever like that. They usually give me some information on what's going on, especially with haunted Milwaukee. Okay, so anyways, that is our tour of Milwaukee. I hope that you enjoyed it. By the way, it took me 27 attempts to create this video through malfunction of my camera, through interruptions, through going to see my doctor, and other things. So, like I said, this was the 27th. This is the 27th attempt. So I hope that you enjoy it, and we will be taking a tour up in northern Wisconsin where we're going to blow your socks off. So I will see you on the flip side.